The walker walks. The walker walks with words. Words inked on brown cardboard. The walker walks with black words inked on brown cardboard. The words on the cardboard are carried on the body of the walker. The inked words call out to an everybody, and yet the walker is solitary, turned inwards. The words call outwards to an everybody, but the walker is turned inwards in solitude. The words addressed to an everybody are lyrics of a song sung by a singer, a poet, a man. The man's name is Leonard Cohen, but Leonard Cohen did not compose the song in solitude. Leonard Cohen composed the song with the singer and lyricist Sharon Robinson. The lyrics composed call out to our disillusionment, to our grief. The song is not a loveless song. The walker makes a sign of our irreducible collective aloneness. The walker makes a sign of our private and uncommunicable grief. The walker makes a sign of our broken and impossible love. Death is slow. Your death is ever so slow, and yet you have been pronounced dead for over a year, and your body is but bone and ash. They say death is final. It is not. Yours is not one death, but many, many, many little deaths stretched over time. Maybe one day there will be no more you to die. Should the day of your final death arrive, I imagine it will be because I, in turn, have died. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Walking. Yeah, just walking. Walking. Talking, walking. Because what else are you going to do? If you don't keep walking, you got to keep walking. Otherwise you're still. And we all know what happens when you're still. Lying down or either sleeping. Lying down, either sleeping or not sleeping. And so you just walk and walk and walk and walk. Like you did with my baby. Took my son into your arms and walked. Whispered into his ear. Probably wanted some response from the other side. Something for your poem. Something for your song. I don't know if he ever got it. And I don't know what you whispered in the ear either, because I wasn't there. Because you took him and you walked and you walked and you walked and you left. And you walked and you came back. So you left the space. Looking for something, I think. Something we all look for. Something we all look for in newborns, because newborns are closer, aren't they? One end reaches the other end. And I guess that's where you are now. And I guess that's what I don't understand. I don't understand how that happens. I don't understand how it happens that one day you just don't get up. You just fall and you don't get up. Every other time you get up, this time you don't get up because I don't know. I don't know what happens. You just go somewhere. Or who knows? I don't know if that's what it feels like being born, and maybe that's what you were looking for. Some kind of response before you even knew what you're asking, because of course we're always asking that question, because that's why we keep walking and walking, trying to find something. We're always going in circles, aren't we, Leonard? Around and around and around. Keep coming back. It's always the same. Yeah. That's how it goes. But this day, this day, I guess it's the day, the time. It's just the time. Nobody really knows. I mean, I don't know if anybody really knows, because, yeah, all I know is I really don't think it happens in a minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes. I think it takes hours, days, maybe until there's nothing left but bones, and maybe even then there's still something. I don't know. Just a mirage. Just some clouds floating across the sky. Somebody projecting something on them. Lo and behold, you think you're alive. And you breathe. And you walk. And you walk. And then that's it. Yep. That's it. That's how it goes. I don't want to say, and everybody knows, because that's your line. It's not my line. I might steal it, but it's still not my line.
Hello, and welcome to the Artist Focus series, which is organized by Out of Sight Chicago, and which is based on the console of the Three Fires. So today's pretty special because it's the last Artist Focus, the last conversation of the fall season. And I have the immense pleasure to be talking with Karen Elaine Spencer, a long-time colleague and friend, and she is actually living and working in Montreal. And so to give a little bit of context, Karen was born in the year of the silverfish. In her early childhood, she softly sang make-believe songs to crumple up tissues in the back seat of the family car. As a teenager, she runs away from home to study the fine art of forgetfulness. And currently, she infiltrates government offices, train stations, metros, and parks to transmit secret messages, rambles, rides the metro, listen to dreams. And during our conversation today, we're going to focus on two of Karen's most recent projects, Walking with Cohen, the video you just witnessed, and Moving the Charter. And we will also address the subject of limit of presence, the one that can make feel even briefly an absence, and how In this absence, presence is called to exist. Karen, thank you so much for inviting, for accepting our invitation, and for your patience with the technical problem today.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's a real treat for me to be talking to you and, you know, reconnecting in our during our exchange. Yeah, that was great. Yeah. So I want to start because there's something you said about your practice that I find really interesting to bring up today. You say, I engage in a traditional studio practice that moves into the public arena, and a public performative practice that moves into the studio. And so when I think about your work, I also, and especially working with Cohen, I think about moving poetry or poetry in movement. And so could you talk to us about these processes and also your relationship to words in your work?
Oh, so many questions.
I know, we don't like that. We can just talk.
But I'll start. Well, there's so much that one could say. I think there's often some, like, the difference between, or how I say I move my studio into the public, in the public into my studio, is I was thinking of a previous work, and how it seems that part of what I want to do is not have this intimate private space enclosed within the intimate private space, but to bring that out into the public. But often in a way that is sort of marginalized. So in one way, I feel like I'm sort of keeping the private, in the sense that I'm not, I'm giving myself to be seen, but I'm not in this particular, in the public, I feel like I'm more like, I want to catch you, but I don't want to like demand that you see me. So often the public works are private, and then the more
it's
works
almost
inside.
it's almost at the border of the visible.
Yeah.
Mind you, with the cardboard, we do see that something's going on.
Yes.
It's not,
yeah. Like like, definitely this is not the walking with Cohen, walking with Robinson is not a furtive performance, in the sense that, yes, you become like hyper visible when you're walking around with a cardboard sign.
And that was something you wanted for this project?
Or I guess I wanted to play with the what is hyper visible, but that we don't want to see. So like, if you are walking down the street and you see somebody in the middle of the day walking with a cardboard sign saying something, it's like, it's so visible, but you don't want to go there. So there was partially that idea of
which is a sort of normative reaction to differences, to what is different.
Yeah. And also just trauma. Because usually when somebody is walking around with a cardboard sign, it's a sign of some kind of what we would consider, or what mainstream would consider, as some sort of sign of discomfort. But me walking with the cardboard so I primarily choose times of the day when there's not a lot of people. because of that, because it also doesn't, if I wanted to have it exist in the space where you're kind of where, yeah, where I might catch you. You might be going by on your way to work, or you might be looking down from your window while you're having a coffee, and it's just sort of this apparition of something that's sort of in this, yeah, like in this in between space of.
And
So
it's not the first time that you're using words or cardboard,
yeah.
for that matter, but it seems like almost this project, there was a preparation through other projects that led you to this walking with
Mm-hmm.
Cohen
Mm-hmm.
from the outside.
Yeah, no, yeah, and for sure the project, as you know from your own work, often the seeds for projects start like years and years and years and years and years in advance of, and what brings it out at a certain time. Often it's not even it's like maybe something was blocking it earlier, or the video, for example, was responding to an invitation to present a video at a conference at UCAM. That was so there was like this opening, and in that opening, this is what happened. So it's sort of like you have these projects underground, and they're like fermenting, and eventually there's
Consciously.
something
Yeah, yeah.
that will allow it to come out.
Mm.
And depending on where it comes out is it's directing the nature of the project, in the sense, if this had come out earlier, I think it would have been radically different for me. So even though they're fermenting and they're there, it's like the moment that they erupt really colors what is happening.
Yeah, and I guess this is also the concept, when the principle of time is important. You know, it seems that there's some work that has to do with later on. You know, sometimes you, like you said, you have a seed, but it's not ready yet. It's not for now, but you need to have maybe more understanding of certain things, or
Yeah.
I don't want to say maturity, but maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
To do the project.
I think there's, I think we talked about this too, Martin, about how it's like every time, no, I wouldn't say, I don't know if it's every time, but often, if I am the one who is directing the work and I'm the one who is leading the work, it's not good work. It's like I have to wait until the work so that there's a joining, so it's a mutual, because often I don't have a lot of patience, and I'm just like, I just want to do it. And so, but there'll be things in life that are like, no, it's impossible. You can't, you don't have the resources, the time. Often it's the resources and the time that will
Together,
dictate,
yes.
or, and then, yeah.
And so one other question I have is, when you do your projects, usually is it always linked to a specific event or a conference, or sometimes you just have an idea and you go in public space and you do it?
Yeah, often it's that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then how do you function? You have transcription, and after that you share in some events?
Sometimes the work will get shared just through public platforms, but sometimes it won't be shared.
Oh, that's interesting.
Sometimes later on a text will come, I'll write like a little compte rendu of it. And sometimes also it's the work, like for the work like Metro Rider, for example, it was like it didn't come out until after the work was over. So often there's like I'm doing the work and there's a delay, often a very long delay actually, and then it will find its way into more visibility. But I'm not super motivated by like my drive is to create the work. It's not necessarily to
It's
make it
not linked.
visible. Yeah,
Yeah.
in that
Okay.
kind of way.
Yeah,
Well,
that poses a big question about the validation of the work.
mm-hmm.
You know, it's something I think about often, as well as working in the public space. You know, if you don't have a set audience, an invited audience, and nobody sees you, then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how do you validate this work? True,
Mm-hmm.
is transcription, but maybe sometimes there's no transcriptions,
Yeah.
as you said.
And so, not, and I don't think, I mean, it's funny because I guess because I do come from a studio practice, and I know there's tons of work that you do in your studio that nobody will ever see, and that you're grateful nobody will ever see. But and you can work on something for years and years and years and years before you'll ever present it in that kind of context. But I feel like often in the performance world, it's like we don't give ourselves that luxury of the delay, or working on something for years and years and years and years. And then, even if it's only 4 words, or if it's one picture, like that can be enough. But because of the way, and I don't know if it's because of the funding bodies, or if it's just, it's also just a very precarious and lonely existence, that you can't, like in your studio, you have these things that tell you, oh, I'm working. But when you're working in more of a ephemeral way, you don't necessarily have even that validation for yourself. And so maybe that's part of it too. It's like we need, I remember when I was doing, the dream listener work, how taking the photograph of the dream in public space became a way for me to validate to myself what it was and that you're doing something that, like that you're not crazy, that this actually is a thought out procedure of sorts. So,
and why do you think, because you say about the, and that's not the dream listener, but anyway, this is another one. This one.
That's okay.
But you say, in performance, it's not like, obviously, it's not like the studio practice where you don't have this time to reflect. And what do you think is that like? Is there like because there's often a pressure to, because we're live, is it, we have a pressure to show something, to conclude something, to arrive to a conclusion at one point.
Well, I think I do think it is partially because of what the sense of like in your studio, you have the physical trace of the marks, or even if you just do one thing in your studio, you go back and that one thing is there. But when you're doing your performative work, it's like you can really, really feel as if you do not exist. And I mean that like not in the sense that you don't exist for others, but in the sense that you're a ghost, or that you are not there, because you might not have anything pushing against you to give you the boundaries of where you are.
Right.
And you're not necessarily in your space. You might be moving through a space,
Mm-hmm.
and and
And things are
so
moving through you. Yeah.
I think that's why, like why when you're walking along a beach, often you'll stoop to pick up something physical and hold it in your hand, like a rock or a shell.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think there's partially that can happen with the type of performance that you engage in, or that I engage in, where there it's not linked to a specific audience, a specific time. You're very, very, very much alone. And then if you choose to work during a time of the day when you're alone, or your work pushes people away, or is completely invisible.
Yeah, because people are pushed away, even though they don't know what's happening, they do know something is happening. And sometimes it's just the way we can look. We look at things, the attentiveness, the presence. All of this is something that people understand. I believe that.
But you're right. Also, I think there is just there's and we have bodies. We need to eat. We need to like house ourselves. We need to exist in the world, and so you need to have money. And to get money, you have to prove that you are doing something. And to prove that you're doing something, you need, so far, like currently anyways, you really need, I find it actually quite incredible how image-based the jury system is when it comes to performance practices.
Yes.
That you really need to have an image. And as every performance artist knows, like the image is not the performance. You can have the most amazing image and a crap performance. And the inverse as well. You can have an incredible practice of performance and your images are just like
really bad photos.
Yeah. But the jury will decide based upon
and I remember you said about a video, it was a bit blurry, and you said, well, actually I like it like this. And it's often what I also have as a comment is like, yeah, it's blurry, this image is blurry, but it actually it transports something of the work.
Yeah.
Something essential. I don't know if it's a movement or it's because it's not about you as the center.
And also it's just not this, are you making a video or are you performing?
Yeah.
Are you performing for the camera or are you engaged
in the experience else? Yeah.
And if you have 3 cameramen or 3 camera people following you, then you're doing something different, which is fine, which is great. Like there's amazing work that's done for the camera. But for this particular work, if it had been like a high production, it wouldn't have been that work. That was my son with his cell phone.
Yeah.
And then the audio was just me talking into the phone to my son. So it kept that sense of
intimacy also.
Yeah. That if it had been something else, then that's fine too, but that's not what I wanted at that particular time.
Exactly. But also your work brings a certain awareness about humanity. In general, your work, not only this specific project. And also it touches on the different inequalities and injustice that are spreading in the world. But yet it's not completely activism. To me, when I look at it, I still have a sense that the poetry of it, but it has a clear message about what we need to look at. Is it, where do you stand according to that? It's like an interval space again.
Yeah, there are periods in my practice where it's gone more into activism, and I don't like that feeling because I really need to keep, maybe it's I just don't like that's. You look at my work, you can't say that I don't like confrontation, but
no, because you are vulnerable.
I like more I guess I often activism is there's two clashing viewpoints. And I guess I'm just more, maybe I'm more, I really don't see the world as black and white. So even things that seem really horrible, often I tend to think of it as like, well, we can still find some commonality, and because I feel like everybody kind of basically wants the same thing. We want to be happy. We want to be loved. We want to be able to be who we are. And so I guess I'm more interested in like linking together those qualities, even though like I'm thinking of the work in New York when I was addressing Mike Bloomberg. Like I liked Mike Bloomberg, and it was when I stopped liking Mike Bloomberg based on his specific policies and how he was dealing with homelessness, the project was not fun. I had to I was like, and no, I don't want to, that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in speaking with the person and perhaps in a confrontational way, but in a way that for me, it's not like I don't like you.
Yeah. It's about, again, it's about conversation. It's about activating conversation, even with strangers, but yet, which you probably find that there's a common ground. And this is the beauty of it. If you put yourself in this vulnerable state and bringing the private into the public, then there's something human about this. And there's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we can have a relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, we put art separate from life.
Yeah, we put other things separate as well. Yeah. So that it's how to make it so that nothing is sort of like pushed aside, even though that's just a cliche, and if you think about it, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, everything is a cliche, and it's not. It depends. Like, I think that when we make work that it's really true to ourselves, we're completely there, and everything is there in the world. So we're not inventing anything, but it's the way you're talking, the way you're saying things. It's your poetry, it's your words, it's your cardboard, it's your idea at that specific moment. And it's the relationship you're going to build with the people you encounter, which is quite ephemeral, but can leave it can leave an imprint.
Yeah. Like if I think about artworks or just events in my life that have impacted me the most, it's probably these really tiny little events, right? Like when
Yeah.
you do your practice and something sort of slightly unexpected happens, and it's just this very intangible moment, and that's sort of what feeds the it feeds us, it feeds life, it feeds
Your inspiration.
yeah.
Shall we go to the second video? What do you think?
Sure.
Then we can.
I have no idea where we are in time.
I'm on it. Don't worry. Yeah, I think it's the time to look at the second video. Do you want to say something before we look at it?
Nope.
Okay. Let's watch it.
We're good. Do you have a good grip there? Yeah. Are you sure?
Every person, including every you,
and every me,
is the possessor,
and you don't have to be a professor
to be the possessor
of many,
of fundamental
freedom,
now,
whether you want them,
or whether you need them.
you have unfettered liberty.
To write or speak,
poetry, sweet poetry.
every person,
Including me,
Including you,
whether your skin is brown
or white,
or blue,
you possess, yes, yes, yes,
the freedom to express.
and freedom of the press.
And if someone should transgress,
You can exercise, yes,
your right to due process.
you also have freedom of religion,
And our favorite,
freedom of speech,
so that all and each
have freedom of opinion.
so you can inhale then express,
And every person,
Including you,
including you,
because it's wrong to be excluding you.
excluding you,
excluding you,
when we have the friendly freedom
to assemble and associate.
So we can communicate.
And if you're ever thrown in jail,
and cannot pay your bail,
You have the right to a lawyer.
so they can tell your boss, your employer,
or your mother or your father, that for dinner
You'll be late.
This is a good example of what we were saying about this interval space between the activism and poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you call them also the charter poet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the name they gave themselves.
Okay, that's good. So can you talk to us about this project a little bit?
Yeah, how much time do I have?
Well, it depends. I feel that we can't cover everything, but let's say we have about 12 minutes and then questions.
Okay. So the law. This is
It's a big subject.
Yes, this is the Quebec Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms, which is an incredible charter, like very extensive, very beautifully written, and maybe not super well known. And then we have the laws of municipalities or the feds or the provincial governments. And the charters were essentially like made as a way to address government power, or
Right.
So I became very aware of my position in relationship to what we would call public space, and how I am not subject to the same laws that homeless people would be subject to, or that primarily Black men are subject to.
Or migrants, or
Yeah, and anybody who spends any time in the public, there's no way you could not be aware of this like radical difference. And the injustice of it, in the sense that I can put my feet up on a bench and I'll be fine. But if you are a Black youth and you put your feet up on the bench, you're probably not going to be fine. I can jaywalk, pretty much, not always, but yeah, if you're an Inuk woman, depending, where you are. So there's all there's all these laws that you might not know about unless you are subject to them. And the charter became a way to sort of address this injustice. And also the fact that these things are, we tend to think of law as like something that is in stone, but it actually is not. It's
moving. Yeah.
It's constantly moving and changing, and it needs us. Like, we are implicated in the construction of our society, and these laws we are also implicated in, and we benefit or don't benefit from them. And I I wanted to activate that space of, well, first awareness and sort of taking these things on as something that we're responsible for and to. But I was thinking about your question, Martine, and about what is my relationship to language and to words, and I started to think about words and language. For sure, there's spaces of control, and there's spaces of politics, and it's spaces of belonging and disbelonging, and people are excluded through which language we speak, and there's hierarchies, and there's all kinds of stuff. But the difference between this space of grief or this space of no language, to me, it feels like that language is actually maybe architecture that doesn't have any walls, or it's very.
You think it's taboo?
No, I think language is very
No, I was
fragile.
talking about that. Yeah.
And that it's sort of like perched above these things that are like, it's trying to make sense maybe of these things that are below it, like the foundation. And the foundation is wordless. And we've built all these words to try to address this foundation. But in fact, the words are like, it's our tool, it's our method, but it's not very very accurate.
Often not. Yeah.
I feel that poetry has that way of making the materiality of language.
Yeah, and in earlier conversation that we had, you also talked about how we are performed.
Yeah,
it makes me think of that. It's a bit of a resonance of that, and how a performer get out of the way to perform this disappearance, which I find it's something that it relates to what you're saying right now. It's not in the productivity system,
No, it's not.
I think maybe that's why poetry can be so radical and so true.
But also, I remember, I probably because maybe my generation, but it was something that I didn't want to necessarily claim. Like, if anybody said that your work is poetic, I wouldn't see that as a positive thing, because to me, it was just a way to marginalize and to make it so that it wasn't. To me, it felt like it was a disempowering thing.
Like beauty, yeah.
And it's often a tag that is placed with people whose gender is female. So for me, but yeah, so many things are.
I know it's like it's an open V. It's linking to other threads of thoughts that we could talk for hours,
So because I'm sure that etiquette has been attached to you as well. This that your work is so poetic, and then it's like,
when people say, "Oh, it's nice," it's kind of.
And you're like, yeah, it is, but
we're like allergic to that. It's interesting, that we would not include these qualification of the work,
Yeah.
But
as
beauty
because it's
is absolutely
certain times
necessary.
in history, certain like when does something become visible in the world? and how many convergences does it take for this to be visible? So remember we were talking earlier about like how you can do performances, but you won't necessarily ever be seen or recognized,
or no transcription exists. It's only
but
the
that
experience.
but that doesn't take away from your work. But there's probably like we have to have this very strong core of belief that it doesn't really matter in so many ways. There's always going to be so much invisible power in the world that moves through and that has a power. And even if somebody uses a word like poetic to cut down the power of what it is that is moving through you or is making you move, it's just like sticks in the wind. It can easily be blown away, and it can be recuperated. It can be used as a seed for who knows how many other sprouts will come from the seed that is invisible, that is below the earth. And it's these others that perhaps who you have touched, who then go on to, like, it doesn't, like, it really kind of doesn't matter, because it doesn't, so life is just so ephemeral anyways, that
sometimes it feels unnecessary to put absolutely put words on what we do, or
images, or
stick to the absolute concept, and because if you do that, then you don't allow this unknown seed to grow.
But it will grow,
to transform you. It will grow, but then
but it might not have the best soil. It might not have the best like light conditions. It might not have the best irradiation, but it'll grow.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. I thought that was a good ending of this segment of conversation, but I want to invite the people, if you have any questions, please, we have a few minutes to take some questions and wrap up the conversation. I would have continued for for weeks. I feel that there's so much things we or if you have something to add that you feel we should have touched. It's not, it doesn't, we don't need to add anything, but it seems like there's no questions there that I'm seeing. So the thing is, we're like on different channel. Oh wait, yeah, there's one. It's from Out of Sight. How have your intimate encounters with others moved you or planted a seed for you to grow?
Right. I kind of think that's all there is.
You think?
I think that is kind of what moves us, is these intimate encounters. I know that's probably not the question, but I was just thinking of, because I think you have to be open to be moved.
Yeah.
In that kind of generative way, and that requires intimacy. Do you have anything to say, Martine?
Well, it's just, it made me think about something I read that Walter Benjamin wrote, the philosopher and art historian and writer. And he said, talking about the flaneur, He said the flaneur is to lead us to an awakening, the moment at which the past and the present recognize each other.
Hmm.
And I
I
feel
hadn't heard that before.
no.
No. Yeah.
Well, you know, living in the area I live, I'm actually in the region where he ended his life and did all the journey through the Pyrenees. And so I've been, you know, a bit
wow.
obsessed,
Yeah.
obsessed with this, not specifically his story, but the story of all the people. You're talking about the inequalities and you know, all the people crossing, you know, walking through the borders and escaping, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's in the soil. It's written,
Hmm.
and it's yeah. So I've been reading a few things, you know, you've said, and somehow it relates to you. It made me think of your work.
Hmm.
Especially all that project. Like I invite people to, yeah, maybe we could invite the people to go to your Instagram to see the full project that you just did with Vertical, I believe,
Yeah.
on the walking
Yeah.
of Cohen, to have a bigger
Yeah.
picture, you know, of,
Yeah.
because there's a video, but there's so much
Yeah.
photos
It
and
keeps
text.
it's one of those projects that just keeps opening and opening and
I know,
opening.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know if we want to, yeah, write it in the chat for people to maybe through the Vertical website or something.
I think it's just I don't know how to comment. Haha.
maybe go to the commentary and put it there.
Yeah, I can't find a place that says where I can put it.
Just send me the link. Okay.
So I think it's walkin _ with
yeah
_ Cohen
Mhm.
at Instagram or something.
It's public, right, Karen?
You know what? Is Instagram public, or do you have to have an Instagram account?
Well,
I was
I'm
thinking
not
about
sure
that.
if it's through the vertical being an art center for people not aware of this center, but
Yeah, Vertical for sure is
I
public.
wonder if it would be public in that sense. It's
Yeah.
something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Because I always assumed that anybody could access Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
You
do need to have an account.
Yeah, I guess I've been on there so long, I had forgotten about
It's true.
the firewall that they put up.
Yeah. So is there any other questions? We can see the link there for people who are interested to follow the project. I highly recommend it because it's I've been really drawn to it, reading everything, and also all the images.
Best audience ever.
Groupie. So I think maybe there's no more questions. So I want to thank you very much, Karen, for your time and insightful.
Oh my goodness, thank you for having me. Yeah,
and thank you so much
it's
for
fun
your
to
work.
think about stuff too.
Yeah, it's important. I think this conversation, that's what I really like, the artist focus. It's about having a conversation together as artists and as human, wanting to ask ourselves questions and see what we can do together to plant seeds.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe transform things. I wish.
Yeah.
Through our practices,
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So maybe we are going to just end with a few ads, because that you were the last artist focus of the fall season. So Corinne, you want to join us for the rest? Yes.
Or should I leave the
Oh.
studio?
No, you can't stay. No, stay. We want to see all the beautiful plants around you and you. We can't hear you, Corinne.
Is it a weaving or a tapestry behind you, or?
Yeah, it's a painting.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the Venus of Willendorf.
Oh.
There was a Venus somewhere.
Thank you so much, Karen. You know, it's a real treat to learn about your work, and you know, what an amazing conversation about visibility and invisibility and these borders, and how text, you know, is employed in your work. So really, thank you. I love this idea of the studio going in and out to private as well.
Also thinking about that, when you're doing actions, you are your own movable studio in a way, like the charter, you know, it's something to always have in mind, that, and this is also very humbling, you know, when you're in the public space and you're a moving studio that nobody see, or very no, very few people are aware of. And but like you said, I really like what you said about, it doesn't disvalue the work. This is the work.
Yeah.
But we live in a world of gratification through images and through titles and standard. And so this is the opposite.
Yeah. And the thing that I like about it too, sorry if I keep talking, it demands or requires the other to have faith that you are doing this thing with thread. And even if they don't see it, and even if they just hear it, it totally transforms your relationship to everything around you, because then you have to believe that people everywhere, not just you or me or Karen, but like everybody is doing this work. But it's just we just have to, and then we see it, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's about being present. Yes.
Well, yes, I mean, and we have been present with so many amazing artists this fall.
Yeah,
it's been a real treat. We started the Artist Focus in Switzerland with Claudia Bucher. And all of these Artist Focus live in the Out of Sight archive on YouTube. So please take time. Every program is an hour long, and we try and stick to that hour. I know we had a few hiccups today, but they're really interesting conversations, each and every one of these broadcasts. And if you dip into them, you know, it's really, hopefully expanding the conversation around outdoor public performance art practice, and ways of creating socially engaged work in public spaces, in rural places and within the city. And yes, and Duff and I got messy today, and I was delighted to hear Dai Suk talk about getting messy in his Artist Focus recently, you know, and ways and how it was such a treat to spend time with her from the Blue Mountains in Australia and listen to her walking performances. And again, last week, we were just in Tel Aviv. It seems like yesterday.
Mm.
With Kinneret. And again, thinking about this relationship between the body and text and how that connects with Judaism and
Mm-hmm.
through language. So that was really fascinating to hear her talk about her studio practice as well.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, you guys have done amazing work.
and, we end today by the water.
Yeah, that's excellent, and I feel that this conversation we had today is a necessary conversation, and a necessary practices and filtrating practices are not spoke about enough, and this is also a big part of, I don't want to use performance, but action art, and it's necessary to have more and more artists who are working in this way and have this kind of conversation.
Yeah, great work, Out of Sight. Great work, Martin. Great work, Karen.
Well,
great work, Karen.
Been such an inspiration to
Mm.
men, in your local community. And, that's one of the things that really came out of the flow this year.
Hmm.
The sense of, the importance of local ecosystems and working in public space. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
And how you can link the local to the global, by just doing what you need to do as a practice, and being humble about it. This is very important, and I feel this is something you're bringing a lot, Karen, in your practice. Thanks for this.
Thank you. See, can you see my head growing?
No. I go the hair, not the head. Too old for this. and so next, I guess it's February we start again, Corinne?
Yeah.
And I've been to the other side of the border to visit Denny Blacker, who's a wonderful artist and friend and colleague as well, who's working on synchronicity and telepathy. And so she lives in a village in Catalonia. And so we've been visiting her in her garden where everything is growing. Really, it's crazy. And so talking about how to hold the space and build a space for being independent of the institution that's already established, and supporting one another. So it's going to be interesting. I'm just trying to put the image with the sound. We'll see how it happens. But yeah, it's somebody I really appreciate the practice as well. So this is coming up.
Yes.
And
we have planted seeds with lots of other really incredible artists who are working in outdoor contexts. And so do join us in the spring. We're also plotting Flow 2023 as a hybrid symposium that will happen in 4 locations around the globe. And so thank you for joining us today. And yes, do tune in. Please, if you've missed any of the broadcasts, please tune in. It's an amazing conversation. And thank you, Martine.
Thank you, Corinne.
I want to also do a big shout out to Bo Coleman, Ecotrinks, and
Marilyn Arson.
Yeah. And and Duff Norris and Fereshte Tuesday and everybody who's a really active part of the Out of Sight Collective and organize these artist focus talks that we brought to you this fall. And so, yes, thank you again, Karen, for such a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martine.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Okay. And